Hello, testing the mic. Hello, Rebel Star. I see your cute emoji. How are you tonight? Let's get this switched over. There we go. All right. Nice. How you doing tonight? All good? Not so good? There's like something. Oh, you've been better, to be honest. Oh man, whatever's going on, I hope that you feel better and that things go better for you. It's been kind of tough these past couple weeks for many reasons. Yeah, but whatever, you know, you got going on, yeah, they're with you in spirit. Speaking of things that are going on, there's like an ambulance or cop car or something outside my window. I can see this like red light blinking. Curry, I don't know if you can see it from where you're at, but I don't know what's going on in the neighborhood. But anyway, I'm doing all right. Yeah, I got all the drama. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's like 2 weeks till my spring break, and so all of the like bigger projects are starting to happen, and I've got like other work deadlines and things, so it's getting kind of crazy. But for this time, I'm here for you guys, so we've got lots to do today. As you can see here, we have this skirt that is sitting here, and today we are officially ready to start puttying it together. We're basically, what we're gonna do is just glue it. So we will be gluing this piece completely and then working on this line here and getting this line and this line filled in. And I have a short little diagram. I think I showed it last time in the monk streams that basically illustrates with photos how I do this. And so we'll be doing that tonight. That's the big plan. And then we should have some extra time, and so we'll be continuing painting on the details. This figure is wrapping up relatively quickly, in all honesty. There's a lot of pieces that are almost done. Some only need a little bit of work, and so we will be moving on to the face very, very soon, within the next couple streams for sure. Things that I did while we had this short break, I did manage to get a couple of pieces done. So I think last time during our stream, we wrapped up these two pieces as well as this shoe, I think. Oops. So this little shoe. But we did add a lot of paint to a couple other pieces. I went ahead and wrapped up all of the black and finished that up. And so I finished up the shoe. So we have like this little shoe, and everything's been sealed. So these pieces are basically done at this point. You'll have to forgive me if there's fuzzies. Yeah, so this piece is completely done. It's ready for its final top coat, and then it just kind of attaches in here. So you've got this, very cute. It's kind of just gray. Whoops, oh, it just wants to go in there. All right. And then I actually wrapped up this as well. So this is the back of her skirt, or whatever this piece is. This is what it's gonna look like. The border is all cleaned up. Again, there's like some fuzz here and there because it's been sitting, but whoops. As you can see, that color that we chose here ended up being, you know, a really good match. I basically can't see the enamel paint unless I'm really, really like sticking my nose into it. And so, great choices of color, you know, a lot going on here, nice clean lines, so that's good. I'll show you what it looks like combined in a second. Last time we also worked on these. So these were her little hair clips. You can see I've cleaned it up a little bit, so it's looking more diagonal now. It was not diagonal before, but we've now finished that up. This piece in the center here, let me like point at it with a toothpick because it was small. So this area here, those are going to be painted orange, and I do have some orange enamel paint, so I'm hoping to get to that tonight. Love the color palette so much. Me too. I'm really loving how it's coming out. I think it's gonna be one of those kits where once it comes together, I adore it. Right now, and kind of, you know, whenever I'm painting these kits, it's kind of hard to like see what it's gonna be like when everything's sitting in like separate pieces, because it's all color blocked into like different pieces. But when you combine everything, that's the best part, I think. So I'm looking forward to our future progress. I also worked on this tiny bird a little bit. There isn't too much I did, but I basically looked at the Mejiro bird, and I wish I had a photo. I guess I can make this photo a little bigger. Let me do that real quick. So if you look at the Mejiro bird here, it actually doesn't have like an orange beak or some sort of beak that you would think it would. It has this gray beak, and so I went ahead and, let's see, make this, no, not smaller. Oh god. Oh, it's because I grabbed it. Okay. I went ahead and I made the beak that kind of same color. So it's that nice kind of light gray to really get it to stand out. We still have to do some work on it. So you can see it has this little blank little eyeballs. So we're going to have to do the white outline. We can do that today. Uh-oh, what are you linking, Canon? Maybe, should I delete that? Yeah, can you delete that, Curry? I don't know what that is about, but link to Discord drama. Let me click that in a second. But yeah, so we might get around to this today. I think maybe adding like tiny white line or white dots or something, because we're gonna have to paint white dots first and then black inside of that to get that little Mejiro eyeball looking like what it is. Let me click this now. What am I looking at? Oh yes, that's exactly it. What a beautiful bird. How reminiscent of what we are doing. And so cute. And you can see that the color pattern really does follow that Mejiro bird. It has that kind of yellow area under the beak, and then the wings are typically, you know, they've got those like grayish accents on them. And I actually did add a tiny bit of that too. I don't know if it's even visible, but you can see I added a tiny little line, just kind of like there, it's there. That's what Mejiro bird is. So you can see that tiny line there. I didn't really add too much on the end of the tail there, but there is like a, whoops, sorry. There's a tiny bit of gray going on there. So this bird is just gonna sit on her head. So we don't need anything too crazy, but it's just fun to try to like get it to look like the little bird, you know? And especially since we have the colors already. So I think that about wraps up what we have been working on and what we did last stream. And so today we are going to mainly focus on this skirt, getting it, you know, ready for the final airbrushing and make it one piece, because at this point, like, this is pretty much done. So it'll be like that, but without the line. So let's get these pieces moved away. Oh yeah, I also wanted to touch on this real quick and how this is coming together. So it really does, it's kind of odd the way it's like the front and the back are different colors, but that's how Whoopie did it. And so it's gonna look something like this. So we've still got actually quite a bit of work to do on this piece. We have to get all the flowers and the frills and everything all trimmed up. So we'll be doing that at a later time. I'm hoping to get some of the orange work done today. I actually started doing it and I got the color to match pretty well, so we're gonna continue that later, hopefully. Hey, how you doing, Saneric? Hope you're having a good night. All right, put this back. So first thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and glue this. Like, we will just glue it completely, let it dry, and then we're gonna start the puttying. Oh yeah, so let's glue it, and then while we wait for that glue to dry, I will walk you through with the photos that I talked about earlier, what we'll be doing in these next steps. So very straightforward. We're just gonna take a cardboard, geez, lost my words there. And I've got this 2-part epoxy glue. It's kind of gross at this point. I've had this forever, but this is what we use and what we will be using when we finish the build of this kit completely. You may notice that both sides here are glossy. I'm actually going to keep the inside glossy for now, and just both parts glossy. That will make everything protected a little bit more, and just have us ready for when we are almost done. I'm gonna actually need a little bit more for this. So we're technically still, like, we'll be painting this, we'll be working on this. This piece is not done at this point. Otherwise it would have that matte top coat. All right, I got one piece of the puzzle done, but I have to get this epoxy out. All right, there we go. So when you're gluing, especially using 2-part, you just want to put down equal parts. Okay, move this over here for now. Just get this mixed. It's been kind of chilly here, so this glue is pretty thick, but you want to make sure that it's evenly mixed. And this is a 5-minute epoxy, so it will not cure, but it should dry in roughly 5 minutes. This is about good. I'm actually gonna get a clean toothpick for this, just to make sure. And sorry, my nice view of my arm. Yeah, so we have these magnets, which are very straightforward. They just, you know, fit together, so we really don't need to worry about anything. We're just gonna put a little bit of glue on, you know, each side and then stick it together. I'm only gonna put it on one side, so I'm not gonna coat both pieces, mostly because that would be too much glue and we'd lead to like over seepage, glue seepage. All right, you also don't need too much here, because the idea is that they're gonna fit together pretty flush. And so we don't want it to like come pouring out of either side. This is always the scary part, you know, because you've got your piece you've worked so hard on, you're almost done with it, but you have to fix those gaps. It's one of those things that's a little bit more advanced when it comes to building kits. You have to be a little confident and make sure you have the right paint mixture and all of that. Not so much an issue if you're like using bottle color or anything though. All right, and very probably sparingly up here. It's probably too much. Just wipe this. I'm gonna wipe it if a little bit seeps out. That's still fine because we're still working with gloss here. And we'll be sanding this down anyway, the surrounding area. All right. If glue seeps this way, kind of on the inside, that's not really a problem. We're not gonna see that anyway. All right, so we have our glue. Just stick them together, I guess. Moment of truth, huh? There we go. That's it. So just a tiny bit of seep here, but not too bad. And yeah, tiny bit here. And that's that. So this piece is going to dry now. It has glue in it and on it, and so in like 5-ish minutes, we should not be able to pull these pieces apart. That would be bad if we did, because it would probably start to rip off some paint. And so now in this time, I'm going to show you these images I have prepared of what we'll be doing basically for this next steps. It does involve, pull it out, Tamiya light curing putty. I debated using this putty over another putty. I have a couple putties that might work for this actually, but I decided on this one because the gap that we're filling is very small. There's not really too much going on there, and seems like it would be a good fit. So before I, start ranting about other stuff, I'm gonna bring up this image that I have. It might be out of order, so we'll just wait for it to circle around because it's kind of like rotating right now. Let's see, where is it? Gap filling. All right. So I showed this before in a previous stream. It was a Momo, or not Momo stream, the Monk stream, so the Chun-Li stream. And right now, what you're seeing are some of the images. I'm gonna wait for this to circle around and then I'll just talk about each one. Should probably slow that down, but whatever. All right, so the next image should be the first one. Basically you can see I've applied Tamiya light curing putty to that gap there. And you let that dry, and then after that you sand down the area and the putty, and you can see the middle portion there still has the paint, and that's because the putty is on top of that. After that, you just kind of continuously sand down and buff out the area, paint over if needed, and just apply that paint on top, and eventually it covers that entire gap. So this is the final picture. You can see there used to be a gap there, but there is not anymore. So that's pretty much it. Again, like, we're gonna put on the light curing putty. I didn't bother with the putty on the top there because that gets covered. As you sand, you'll sand down all the paint in that surrounding area, but then the putty in the middle still lets you see the paint. Then I think at that point I was kind of polishing, making sure that the gap and any extra putty is going away. And then finally, you paint over that whole area. And so let me put this image kind of in the top here just for a bit. It's just gonna cycle through. This was an older kit that I painted of Mero-chan. I don't know if any of you guys know the character, but she basically had these two hair pieces that ended up being one. And it was a unique situation because you had to have the head installed first in between those hair pieces, and then do all the puttying when the face was completely done. Actually, I have her. Let me pull her out real quick. She's kind of dusty though, so don't mind it. She's also had some wear and tear just because I painted this kit so long ago. Whoops. She's sitting in my detolf here, so. Oh, dusty girl. All right. A rare opportunity to see one of my older kits, I guess. Again, she's kind of dusty, so just be patient. I'm trying to wipe off dust. So here is the top of her head. You can kind of see the gap roughly, but I put a lot of shading in there, so hopefully it's not quite as obvious. Let me zoom out a little. Whoops, not in. So this is the top of Mero-chan. She's kind of wobbly here, so I gotta be careful. But you can see the side here, there's only this very faint gap, and it kind of blends into her head, so it's not too much of an issue here. This figure is pretty old at this point. I think I painted her with Tamiya acrylic paints rather than lacquer, so she's got a little bit of a texture to her and some stuff going on, but yeah, I'm still very fond of her. She's very cute. Her face is very cute. Yeah, the face held up really well. You can see there's only a tiny glue problem in the back here that I'll have to correct at some point. And she also comes with this little chibi, one. Very cute. So actually it was 1.5 kits that you had to paint, and then both of them had that kind of hair problem, I think. So I had to do this for both of them. This one came out really well. You can't even see the problem. She looks cool. Yeah, she's really spicy. I don't even know why I decided to paint her. She just, kind of spoke to me, and it was a good intermediate kit. Intermediate meaning I was in between projects, and she seemed like a simple color scheme. Wanted to practice some more with my airbrush, so this was before I was, a lot better with my airbrush. Again, I hadn't even used lacquer, I think, at that point. There's probably more information about her on my website, but yeah, she's a She's a fun one. And this base is really cute too. I found this base in a thrift store, and the colors just matched perfectly with her. And so if you're ever on the hunt for base stuff, you know, thrift stores are a great option. You never know what you'll find. And I always enjoy, you know, pulling unique stuff together. Sorry, I'm putting her back. Alright, in you go for another 4 years or whatever. Okay, so in short, that's basically what we're about to do. And if you do it, you know, well enough, you won't be able to see anything. So let me, dang it, I probably shouldn't have dumped my little thing in here. Let's see. Alright, so this is pretty sturdy at this point. You can see the glue is not budging. So we're pretty much good to start puttying. And what I did last time for habanero, I kind of just went in and applied the light curing putty right away. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I think what I'm going to do real quick is just kind of sand down this area very lightly. And that way we have a nice surface to put it on. And then kind of go from there. Yeah, this is pretty good. Very dry at this point. There was a tiny bit of glue seepage, but that's okay. Alright, so let me get on a glove. That way I'm not touching this over and over. And yep, we're still good. I'm actually just gonna double check. Make sure. Yep, we're still good. Any reason you didn't glue and putty the two halves before you painted it in this case? Basically I felt that I would be able to shade it a little bit better and get all of that detail work done. I also wanted to make sure that the inside here was painted in this color before I decided to do it, mainly because it's kind of hard to airbrush directly in like this, and it risks getting those kind of fuzzies. So I don't know if I've talked about fuzzies before, but basically if you're airbrushing a piece like flat, you're more likely to get a really smooth surface. But if you're going in at an angle like this, your paint is hitting like here, and then once it hits this surface here, it just kind of like scatters in kind of every area, and so you get a rougher texture. And so mostly I just wanted to make sure both sides were equally smoothed, and that I had the right color. Yeah. You could definitely do it the other way as well if you wanted to glue this and get it all done first and then mask everything as one. That's totally up to you if you build this kit. This is just, I felt that this would be easier overall. So, all right. So I am going to take this 1200 grit. So this is just a 1200 grit, and man, I don't want that much of it on there, but I'm just gonna really lightly sand along the seam here. And what will have to happen is we'll get this sanded. We will have to prime again over this small area and then paint it as well. And even if the glue fills in like a little bit of this, the putty will still cover up that gap. So the main purpose is to fill in that gap. I am not, however, going to mess with this area down here because this is kind of a natural frill. The way that Whoopie designed this is so these frills just match up equally and then go in the middle. Same case here. You can't really see a gap in the bottom here, so we're not going to bother that. So we're only going to paint over the green part. And the sanding here is just so I can get this putty to stick a little bit better. I'm not using a heavy grit. You can see I'm taking off very little paint. Just want to give it that nice surface. So we'll do the other side now. And if you have small gaps like this, you don't need to go in, I think, with your, you know, 2-part putty or anything like that. That one's a little thicker than what we're doing here. This is really a surface level gap that we're filling in here. You probably could, but to me it just seems like more sanding work needed. So We'll just be using a minor putty to fix this. And my favorite is always light curing, so. Alright. Alright, so we got this kind of smoothed down. Let me wipe it a little bit. Just get any extra fuzz and dust off. And then we're just gonna go in with the light curing. So I'm just gonna use this straight from the bottle. It is relatively liquidy. So I'm left-handed, so I'm gonna work right to left. Hello, can you guys hear me? This is a continuation of my last stream, and apparently it blipped. So waiting and checking and hoping that people can hear me. We'll give it a few minutes to catch up. This is restarting, so. Can you see me and hear me? Testing. Right in the middle of the good stuff. Okay, good. I have no idea what just happened there. I like came over to my screen and it was like the Thanos blip. Like I just blipped out and I saw it and I was like, and then I saw everyone's comments saying, "Where's Plum?" And I was like, okay, that's odd. So, that was weird. I'll have to like compile the vids or something together. But anyway, obviously we didn't miss anything. We were just working on this. So hopefully there's no more technical difficulties. Honestly, I'm blaming this laptop because it's been having trouble with internet. And so here's hoping that we're good. So yeah, this is what we're working on. You can see we've got a full line here. I'm gonna look over this real quick. Yeah, it looks okay. So let's see, maybe add a little bit more down here. That was so weird. All right. There's one portion of this skirt where it kind of overlapped and there was a small ridge, and so I want to make sure that that ridge is gone. So this looks good. Let me close up my putty real quick, and what we're gonna do is light cure this one side and then turn it around and do the other side, and then we'll get the sanding done after that. So just want to make sure I get both sides done. Otherwise I'm going to be touching wet putty at some point. So yeah, this stuff's great. I ranted about it enough, but in short, Tamiya light curing putty is a little bit more of an expensive putty, but it cures under fluorescent or any sort of light source really. I don't know if it works with UV, but you basically just hold it up to your hobby light or anything and it will cure in, you know, about a minute. It's like dry to the touch in like 30 seconds, but cures very, very quickly. So it allows you to very easily sand down, you know, and continue your work. I'm trying to like, says 27 watts, I think. I don't know. It'll cure really quick. I was trying to find a time. Anyway, this is probably, yeah, that was my next point though. This stuff is getting very difficult to find, as are many hobby products these days. I bought this tube. This is my replacement tube to another tube I had forever. And so if you can find it, this stuff will last you a very long time, but it has become quite scarce, it seems. So that's a little unfortunate. I bought this one quite a while ago, so I think pre-pandemic, honestly, can't attest how difficult it is now to find. All right, so you can see it's now cured. It's not as glossy anymore, so it kind of loses that glossy shine once you work on it and get it, you know, sanded as well as dried. All right, so we're gonna do the other side now. There's a hair here. That's from Rocket. All right. So yeah, same deal here. We're just gonna put this putty directly into that gap, as well as just a little bit outside it, just to make sure that we get the whole area covered. And we will not be airbrushing this tonight. We'll be doing the sanding and stuff, but I'll be doing the primering and the sanding and all of that later. Probably not until this weekend though. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit more putty. It's starting to separate, the liquid is separating. Alright, so we'll get a little more here. Again, not too much needed. We did a really good job making sure that this was already very closely fit. In all of that time we did the magnetizing, and I did some heat bending to this as well. I remember to make sure that this is good. I'm also not going to putty the top here, so we have the option of it, but since we aren't going to see it, there's no need to. We're really only puttying what is visible. Alright, let's do a tiny bit more on the top there. Okay. That should be good. Alright, so let's get this up to the light. Show you a before. So this is before. You can see it's very kind of shiny and wet, and then after we finish and wipe it off, it will just be kind of matte. I don't know if I have the relevant sandpaper here either. I'll have to, let me check my stash. I've got a bunch of nubs. I've got some 400 in here, that'll probably work. Some 800, some thousands, whatever this is. Some toothpicks. It's weird. I'll just stick them in here. This is probably not good anymore. Okay, so let's check. A little bit more, just a little bit. It's almost done. I think this is a polishing grit. Yeah, this is 2000. All right, well, there's a couple here, and I've got some big ones too. All right, that should be good. So you can see now that it's mostly matte. You know, if you wipe it down, all the oily stuff kind of goes away. So at this point, the putty is dry enough to be sanded. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm actually gonna put on my other gloves here, just because I don't want to touch it anymore. All right, so, oh wait, that's not 800. Let's see. This one's 800. So I usually use a combo of 400, 800, 1200. Just really sort of anything on my desk to get this sanded. I'm gonna start out with 800 though, mostly because we have paint in these surrounding areas, and so I don't want to do too much. I don't know if I have paper 800 though, because I'd prefer to use that. I don't think I have any more though, so we'll just have to kind of work at it. Also, and now I'm remembering I don't really like using my glove when I'm sanding, because I tend to like get my glove under this job. Yeah, maybe I'll just take this one off. My bad. All right, so we'll start out with this and see where it goes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use a little bit of 400. All right, so we really want to focus on just the putty if possible, but since we're gonna be painting over this area anyway, if you hit paint, that's okay. We just have to make sure that we, you know, prime and smooth everything out beforehand. I know it seems pretty scary, especially because we've like finished, you know, the paint job, and then we're sanding paint off. That's always just kind of, ugh. The first time I did it, I was so nervous. but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Or at least you know what you're doing, so. And I might go a little slow here just because I want to be as careful as possible during this step, so. Don't worry too much if you get like sand, you know, sanding dust on your paint job, because that can all just be blown off or wiped off. And you're just gonna keep sanding until you basically smooth the area out and you hit that paint layer under, or at least each side you'll hit the paint layer. I hope that makes sense. You'll see in a little bit. I usually leave the sides, so like the top and bottom, till last after I've finished. So we've sanded a bunch down, but then we're gonna come back to the top and bottom portions in a bit. And this looks like we're sanding a lot of stuff, but this Tamiya light curing putty, it tends to get messy. So, you can see here we've start to hit some paint, so that's both good and bad, I guess. Means we're getting close to getting that smoothed out. Wet sanding is also an option here, so if you prefer to do so and minimize your dust, this is a good option as well. All right, so you can start to see it's smoothing out. The primer will really show us if we have done the whole job here. Maybe I'll take a photo and then, you know, show you guys once we get that far. So this is it's a little bit time consuming, honestly, to do this step, but it makes your work look so much more professional. It makes you, look like a seasoned builder if you know how to fill in these lines. And some kits, they almost require it, especially if it's hair that's, really complex, or it just looks odd with a line in it. You can sometimes get away with doing this, but for pieces like skirts or certain hair, it will really help you out if you're able to do this. Also, sometimes arms, for whatever reason, are connected at weird portions, and so it's good. Or if it's a nude kit, that's also sometimes, you get arms that are separated from the torso, and so being able to do this and connect it all as one piece will really make it look a little more cohesive. But I would say that this is not pure beginner skills. This is something that at some point you will need to address, if you want to continue building and you're looking to kind of elevate your work a little. But for your very first kit, you could probably not. All right, just gonna wipe a little down. You can see some of the paint. Some of the paint we sanded off, but for the most part, we're good so far. I'm gonna go through this, and then after this, I'm gonna start buffing it out with 800 and go from there. And then we'll switch over to the other side. Also start working on this side a little bit more because there was some extra putty here. Doing this type of work is also why I recommend pre-mixing your color and storing it, in these bottles, because if you need to come back to it and do stuff like this, you have that color ready and you're not going to have an issue with paint, not matching. All right, let's see. I think I need to put a little bit more like curing putty in this section. This was a ridge that didn't quite match up, and it looks like it's, well, we'll try sanding it down, but right now there's still kind of a gap here, so. Not sure. Let's continue sanding a little. Kind of hard to tell. Let me actually grab a little cup of water. That way I can just wipe off some of this dust. Have some flowing water here from my pet's fountain, so it might have some cat stuff, but it's fine. All right, so let's just wipe this down real quick. That way you can really see all the area that we've sanded and what we haven't. All right. So here's where we're at so far. You can see we basically filled most of this gap in at this point, but we're gonna do some touch-ups and make sure that everything's smooth because there's some areas I missed here. Get some more 400. All right, so far so good. Trying to see what other areas I missed, and it's just this portion down here. So let's see. There we go, it's looking a little better. Tiny dust. So we really haven't, you know, wiped off too much paint here. It's mostly the stuff on the edges of either side of the seam line. Okay, swipe it again. Let's see. Just looking to make sure that I didn't miss any areas of the putty and that I get it completely all sanded down, so the only putty that remains is inside of this gap, or, you know, wherever is needed to make the pieces line up completely. Looks like this is about good. So let me wipe off again, and then we're going to just sand this down with an 800 really quick, and then 1200. Just because the 400 does a lot of micro damage and kind of micro scratches, and so we want to make sure all of those are buffed out before we put on the primer. This will also allow, if any paint came off, it'll smooth it all down, and so we'll get a much more even surface to spray it on. I think I basically said that already, but it's both for the putty and the paint job that we sanded off. it's 800 and then the 1200 after that. And you may need to do this, you know, a couple times depending on how well you did it the first time. Once you prime, you'll really be able to see, you know, what you missed and what you did. But once you get to that primer stage, you want everything to kind of already be laying flat, so then your paint can just go on right after. Alright. Get that off. There's a tiny, it looks like a tiny bit of scratching that happened. Whoops, as I dropped this. So there was a tiny bit of scratching that happened on the feathers here, or whatever this is right there. But we can just use enamel paint to clean that up very easily. So, all right, looking at it, looks mostly good. There's a nick here too that I might fix later, but for demonstration purposes, this is fine. Yep, okay. Smooth out some more. There we go. All right, so that's one side. So really when you prime that, it should, you know, lay pretty smooth for the most part. Again, you might have to do one more application of the putty, but that's just getting it ready for the final sanding and smoothing and gap fill a little bit more. I should not be touching that. All right, so let's do the other side. So this is the same sort of deal. We're gonna sand that down and get it to be looking like one fluid piece. Okay, start this way. That's the good thing about kits though, you know, even if you make painting mistakes or you do anything, there's always ways to correct whatever you just did. It doesn't really matter what level you're at. Like, I still make pretty grievous errors sometimes. There's one tiny kit I'm working on and I don't know what I'm doing. There's like some dumb decisions I've made that I should know better, that I messed up on, but it happens, and so, you know, you just gotta fix whatever you're doing. All right. My point is, don't be afraid of starting or trying out new techniques and stuff, because there's always ways to repair and correct with enough patience. Just kind of rotating the direction that I sand at some points. Make sure I'm not over sanding one particular area. This side seems to be sanding down easier than the other side, so. Move over here. Let's see, I always struggle to smooth out the areas that still have paint on. Where I've sanded, always end up with a ridge line somewhere. Yeah, that is a very common problem, Rebel Star. Mostly like if your paint is a little bit thicker, or there's any number of reasons why it happens. I too have had that issue. The polishing with a thinner, like, or a higher grit tends to work pretty well for me, but it can be really rough. It's like a matter of, you know, getting your primer on and then sanding the primer down, making sure it goes on, and it's a whole deal. You can see this side is a little bit more paint's being taken off compared to this one. Just a little bit. So fingers crossed that all of this ends up okay. The acrylic I use tends to tear rather than sand. Yes, yeah, that is another problem with using water-based acrylics. I assume that's what you're using. Yeah, the sanding off in like small chunks doesn't work quite as well with that. It tends to rip up whole pieces. Yeah, that was a problem I had when I was using water-based acrylics, and when I was hand painting, that was a huge problem that I had. Sometimes if you just got a tiny bit of paint peel and then you try to get it off and it just pulls everything off and you're like, what happened, primer? Why are you doing your job? Yeah. That's like a bonding issue with the pigments of the acrylic, I think. It's just different solvents, you know, for this type of process react a little differently. So yeah, we are working with lacquer here. We're sanding off lacquer paint, and so it will react a little differently if you're doing acrylics, just FYI. Be very careful. I would not start with 400 grit then. I would probably polish at a much lower grit and kind of go from there. All right, I'm gonna wipe this, see where we're at. It's kind of getting kind of hard to see. Some of this, you know, it looks like we've sanded off stuff, but then it turns out it's just sanding dust. So, all right, here it is. There's some more needed. Work on this edge, hopefully get all that sanded. Just a little dust here and there. All right, here's where we're at so far. So you can see we've mostly filled in, you know, a good portion of this, but there's still some area up here, especially right here, that we're gonna have to work on. That, I wish I didn't put so much putty there, because that's gonna be annoying to sand, but it is what it is. All right, wipe this. Okay, I'm gonna leave that section for now. And let's get back to work up here. We really only have this kind of top portion now to smooth out. And you do want to be careful when you're handling kind of from here on out, because even though you glued your kit, this is like a very thin layer of putty, and so it's relatively easy for it to break. If you dropped your kit, you know, and it broke apart, your putty job would obviously not be great either, and it would fall apart. Trying to get that big glob sanded down. Ugh. It's working though. So far, so good. The rest of this, you know, is not being affected, so. Okay, I've hit some resin, it looks like, on one side. Not too much left. Trying to get the right angle for this. Let's see. There we go, almost there. You're dying. What's happening, Cannon? Rip, Cannon. It was nice knowing ya. Alright. Started working on eyes. Ooh, the best part. Now you too. Yeah, eyes are the most challenging, I think, for many reasons. We will get there and deal with that too, but I assume you're using the enamel method and doing the whole shebang. It just takes practice. Like most things, you know, everything here takes practice. Okay, I'm gonna start polishing this with the 800 now, kind of see where we're at. You'll have to send me an update how it's going for you. Oh, this is 1200, my bad. Wait, so is this? Okay, this is 800. I guess you could use 1200 as well. Okay, that scared me for a sec. Thought we had some sanding there, but it's just dust. Overall, I think the side had to be sanded down a little bit more than this one. You can see there's some more white here, but this is pretty par for the course. If you look through those images as they're going, you know, I did sand off quite a bit when I was working on Habanero, so. What's A? Have you ascended? That did not take very long. All right. There's actually a tiny bit here. I'm just gonna try to get out with the 400. There we go. Okay. And that. Okay. And wipe again. I'm literally just wiping this with water. There's nothing crazy going on here. You definitely don't want to be wiping this with lacquer or anything, because that is just going to take off your whole paint job. Water only. Alright. And we're going to do the 1200 now. we're just about done with this, guys. Okay, and I'll wipe one more time. That'll also let us see the putty a little bit better. Okay, it's quite dusty, so we can also, whoa, that was close. At some portion or point, kind of wipe it. Let's see, I got some super cute 28mm anime minis. I'm too scared to start because no way I'm gonna be able to do the eyes. 28mm is very small. That's like, you know, tiny minis for tabletop gaming size, right? Yeah, those ones, like, I think that's too small even for me. Okay, let me click this link and then we will briefly chat. Oh yeah, I remember this link. So this is what Canon just posted is a very old tutorial, but very relevant, that uses airbrushing with enamel paint and just using the enamel eye method and all sorts of things. This is an oldie but goodie, so. Instructional tutorials are very helpful. Okay, put this back. Found that one small guy for that airbrushing. Yeah, for airbrushed enamel eyes. Yep. All right, so this kind of concludes this portion for now of what we'll be doing with this skirt. So you can see here, we basically got it glued together. We have now puttied this and sanded it down, and so I know it doesn't look like it's, you know, smooth, but if we primer over this, for the most part, it should come down as one flat line. And so I'll have to do that on my own because I don't have that ready for tonight and there's other things I want to work on. But this was a brief way of how to do it. And yeah, after that, what you would do, kind of like what I showed in the images up there, is you're just kind of going to section off a portion of this. So to make sure you're only dealing with this area, you're gonna prime just this kind of area and then spray over that with your paint of choice. And so I don't have it here, but we have the Mero-chan dress color. What we did do before we got this color out is we added some white to it, and so I had to remember the recipe for the white and then you know, get that down and try to do the same process that we did basically when we painted those clothes. I don't remember what stream that was. It was like 18 or something. I don't remember. But anyway, that's what I will be doing on my own time. So you can see it fits in like so still, but ideally, you know, next time you guys see this, it will be one piece. So that concludes this portion. I'm just gonna kind of put this over here and going to clean this up real briefly, turn off the little habanero image, and then we're gonna continue working on some details tonight. So we're moving back to enamel painting with some details like we did in our last stream on Thursday. So this time, however, we're gonna be working with orange and I think white, maybe. Yeah, I think we'll have time for some white tonight. And I will show you guys the pieces we'll be working on. So we'll just keep this towel here. So yeah, let's see, I need to get some better thinner real quick as we're transitioning. Okay, got some enamel thinner. I have a couple of cups. This one's still good. So I just put a little cup full of thinner. You can see there's some paint excess in there, but that's fine. I was testing color earlier. So first thing we're gonna work on, oh, hi Rocket. Rocket just came in here. Hello, Spooky. You want some water, I think. Oh, hi. Oh, you meow? He said hi. All right, so I already kind of started work on this. We're gonna be working with this piece first. I pre-mixed some paint that worked pretty well. It looks a little dark on here, but believe me, it comes out pretty well on the kit. So basically, I fixed up most of the area down here. There's one or two areas I need to touch up, but we're gonna be focusing on this region. And also there's some areas on these cherry blossoms that I want to make sure are completely white because I don't know if you guys can see it. There's like a portion, let me get a toothpick. There's like a portion right here where you can see the orange from the airbrush got on top of that cherry blossom. So I want to cover that up. There's also these kind of sections in here that aren't supposed to be orange, but I don't remember what color I wanted to paint them. I think that the actual Mero-chan, actually I have the image right here, I don't know why, I'm just speculating. So the actual Mero-chan had them kind of this red color, which I might as well go to, but I'm not gonna work on that tonight. We'll see if I get around to it. Looks like also that red color was used for the kind of details of the sakura blossom. She has these little indents in each of the flowers. There's like 3 little, you know, marks. And so paint will fill those in. So that might be a last step actually, because I'm not quite sure how I want to paint those flowers. I thought I would hand paint them, now I don't know. So we'll see. Shouldn't you airbrush the gradient first? Yes, so that was kind of going into what I was doing. What the plan will be is we're going to clean up this orange first and get that top coated. Then probably in my own time when I'm also spraying the skirt, I'm going to put an enamel gradient of this yellow on here just because I'm not quite sure if it's really what I want, and we'll see how it goes off. And then if I don't like it, I can just wipe it away and then go from there. So yeah, there's still actually quite a bit to do on this piece in particular. Most of the other pieces are almost done, but not this one. So that's kind of moving forward what will happen on that one. So we'll get the orange done on this, and then we are going to paint orange in these little areas. So she has these little round portions that we're going to be putting the orange. And that's all the orange that's needed on this kit that I can tell. So we'll adjust if necessary. The other orange pieces are these literal oranges, but you don't need to put orange on the inside. We're gonna put white or some similar color in here. So that's later, that's part of the whites that I was talking about. I'm scared of Airbrushed Enamels. There's definitely a learning curve with those. I can say that. Airbrushing it with naphtha or lighter fluid is generally the way to go for that because it volatilizes a little quicker, and you can get it not like as liquidy. The big problem with thinning enamels for the airbrush is that they can spray on too wet, and so you basically don't get a nice coat, and so the naphtha really helps with that. I need to reactivate this, so give me one sec. And for whatever reason, I think because we did spray a gradient, I ended up with 2 different colors of orange on this, and so you may be able to tell there's like 2 here. There's the main color and then there's darker color. Main reason being because the stock is low. Oh, like you don't have that many enamels? Is that what you're saying? Oh, I see. Yeah. That is actually another portion too. They can take up, you can end up using more than you would think. I tried to like eyedropper it or like toothpick drop it, but even then, yeah, they do consume quite a bit, so it can be tough. All right, I'm gonna take this off and probably zoom in. Let's try to see how this goes. I think last time our stream was pretty good and we were able to get a good view, so I'm gonna try to keep it that way, but we'll see. So there's mainly a couple of little portions that I just want to lay some color down and kind of clean up. It's a little much. This color has been pre-mixed again. I did it just before stream, but I can show you the colors that I used. I used magenta and yellow and some white, and I also threw in Tamiya X6 and X8, so it's lemon yellow and orange. I kind of just mixed everything together to get this color, but it is more yellow tinted than it is red, so the main focus there was mixing enough yellow and orange together. You could probably just use white and the Tamiya colors, but I started out with the Gaia notes and then I was like, oh yeah, I have these other ones. Let's see. Okay. These are the tough portion. It's this tiny crevice. Kind of hard to capture it. I'm gonna gremlin mode real quick, meaning I get really, really close. I don't know if you guys can see my head. Probably not. Okay, we'll probably have to wipe some of this down. It's just hard at this angle. Okay. I think I got it. It's hard to see well. Not sure where to get those. I got mine from Seal Model, but knowing like the stock of everything, these are probably long out of stock. I don't even know where to get them now. I'll have to do a check in my secret stash to make sure I still have enough stuff, because I'm starting to run pretty low. Okay, I think it was mainly, oh, there's one tiny portion here. Okay. And here. Okay. That one I'm gonna need to wipe a bit. So we're just laying down color right now. Basically filling in any area that I missed with my airbrush. And also because, you know, no matter how well we mask, when you peel stuff off, chances are you missed something. So this is just kind of the cleanup phase. There's one portion here. And I'm gonna just quickly kind of wipe there. Let's see, there was something here. Oh, right there. Hard to tell at this angle. You can see that nice orange gradient. You can really see it in this light. All right. Only yellow, red and yellow rust are in stock. Oh boy. Oh, the delays, the everything. It's not a great time to be a modeler looking for. Oh, I need to get rid of this habanero thing. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. I completely forgot about that. There we go. Yeah, not a great time to be looking for stuff. You'll have to explore alternative sources. If anybody lives in like Japan and wants to be a dealer, then just let me know. Okay. Okay, we're gonna come back to this in a little bit. Because we're gonna need to put some white on this and clean up some of these sakura blossoms, because it's kind of hard to tell right now. But there's definitely a couple areas that I want to clean up with the white. But for the most part, this looks pretty good. Anyone in the, know someone in Japan? Right? Yeah, please. If if you're willing to smuggle paint, we're getting desperate over here. There we go. Okay. So I actually hadn't really decided what color I wanted to paint these little hairbands. I think given that the base color here is this lighter orange rather than the shading color, we're gonna stick with this lighter yellow and paint that for these instead. Instead of using this kind of darker orange up in that small portion of this cup. So let me put this back. Seriously though, Canon, like, oh my god. Talk about like having a niche hobby and then not even being able to like do anything in that niche hobby. It's just rough. There we go. Okay. Alright, so kind of like what we did last time with this diamond, we're just gonna apply the paint right on there, kind of glob it on, and then we'll go in and we'll smooth out these little hairbands. Yeah, this area is right here is good. Let's see, make sure this is thick enough. Yep, that's pretty good. Alright, yep, so just gonna put it on here. Try to get it all in one layer. It might be a little hard because it's an elevated surface, but we'll try. It is a little thicker paint because I only thinned it a tiny bit, so. Oops. It's an interesting color. Goes on pretty nice though. There's a hair right there. Get that out of the way. Get out of here. I did actually test this next to the hair so far, and the white really stands out. So I can see why Whoopie chose to just leave these hairband portions white. It looks really good against her little like hair clip bow things. That looks kind of weird. There's like a chunk here. There we go. It was like a bubble. Sometimes you get enamel bubbles. You want to try to pop those as quickly as possible. Otherwise they're going to lead to kind of imperfections in your job. Alright, get a little bit more on this side. Just trying to match the contour of the outline. This will be cleaned up too, so don't worry. Let's see. That's pretty good. I was concerned about this side over here, but we're gonna smooth all that down, so I think we're good. And we can always put another thin layer on. Let's get a tiny bit more here. There we go. Oh, now it's uneven. Or not. It kind of levels, so like the enamel kind of self-levels too, so I can see over here. Hopefully that doesn't affect it. Might have to wipe that off. Let's see. Okay. Might have put too much on here. But if you thin it down, then it's gonna start running, so I'll just put on a second layer. If not, I'll just wipe this off and then, oh no, that looks pretty good. Okay, we'll leave that and not screw it up anymore. Yep, that's good. Okay, so we'll do that one. That's that side. When it's drying, I tend to leave it the direction that it needs to dry, and so it would be like facing up like this. It's not very, so you don't want to do that. You don't want it to turn over. You want to try to leave it in a direction where it's going to dry the right way, which is kind of hard to do because this piece isn't very, like it just tends to do that. So there we go. I think that's okay. There's a little something there that might be the hair or something. I think it will be okay. All right, so put that up. We're gonna do the other side now. Might need to thin this out some more though. Let's check. Oh no, we're good. So the corners over here still have some paint, so blue tack. Yeah, blue tack might work. Actually, I had some new blue tack that we just bought today. Whatever, it's a little late now. Okay. I had to like bring this forward. Looked like it was sagging. Yeah, so you could like stick the piece in blue tack. That would probably work too. I just have these clips here, so. That was weird. I thought there was a hair there, but I'm just seeing things today. Okay, you can see this paint is a little thinner. It's kind of like running. You can see some of the white coming off. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a thicker layer here. It's all about the right consistency. If your enamel is too thin, then it's just not gonna stick to these surfaces that are raised up. If it's too thick, then you're gonna get streaky lines. Let's see, have you ever used 2K gloss 2-part urethane clear? No, I have not, Canon. I have been wanting to try it for a while, but my main concern is the safety aspect, because I don't have the proper safety for it. And that stuff is a whole other level of toxic. And so I really just don't feel comfortable using it at this time. Maybe someday if I get, you know, better setup or have my own dedicated private workshop where, you know, my pets aren't hanging out and other stuff. But yeah, it is on the list. Basically what Canon is talking about is a higher level of top coat than a lacquer top coat. And so urethane 2-part clear is basically stronger than lacquer. And so you will, kind of like how when we use lacquer to paint enamel, you would use the urethane 2 clear to paint lacquer. You can even do it on lacquer. And so what you would do is you top coat with the 2K, and then you can layer lacquer on top. And if you make a mistake with the lacquer, then you can just wipe the lacquer off and you still have that top coat job. But the trade-off for that extreme durability is much higher toxicity. The stuff I've heard can be a little tricky to work with because you have to mix it the right way. I don't know the drying time on 2K. I honestly have only looked into it a little bit. But yeah, I would very safely say that that's a pretty advanced top coat that I would definitely not recommend to beginners. Oops, what's going on there? In any way. Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah, so it's, yeah, the same concept. You would use it for lacquers though. So it's really great if you have, you know, a very complicated, you know, intricate metal pieces or whatever that you want to do. And you want to wipe away that lacquer. But for the average person building, I think that product is a little bit too dangerous. It's hard enough convincing people to wear masks when they're spraying. Let alone like have the proper safety and disposal equipment for 2K. Okay, this is weird. Kind of overkill. Yeah, I can see its uses. I think also though it's something like there's always going to be something product that's stronger than something, and so there are times where I'm like, oh, you know, this 2K might be useful, but at the same time I could just like mask and not have to do that. And so there's very few applications I would think that you would need 2K. Although I have heard it's great for not so much kits, but pieces and paint jobs where you're gonna get a lot of use. And so I guess the like gaming console controller community who does mods and stuff like that, you basically gotta use 2K to seal your paint job on like your custom you know, Switch controllers or GameCube controllers, because they're gonna be handled a lot. And you want something that has that really high durability. So for that case, I think that would be great. For us, like figure building, something that's going to be sitting on the shelf for the most part, might not be quite as useful. I still think it is probably useful in some situations, but you know. It's also highly used in car communities, so I think isn't 2K like used on automotives, and so you know you're gonna be driving and you don't want your paint job to scratch, right? And so for very, very highly used surfaces and stuff like that, 2K is great. All right, that was kind of my small spiel about that. This is the piece that we just the last piece we worked on. And so we're gonna let that dry for a little bit longer. You can see it's kind of settling down. So you may be able to see some of the outline of the figure mold, and we're gonna work on sanding or smoothing that out in a little bit. So in the meantime, I guess let's come back to this piece and we can start applying the whites on it. I'm gonna clean out my enamel cup. As you can see, it is highly used. So I'm just gonna wipe this down. And it's nice and clean. I have some other thinner right here, so I just kind of keep these cups ready. I also have a nasty cup, so this is a cup that I put my paintbrushes in. So we try to keep these separate, so you're not contaminating each pot. Alright, so I had a little one ready here, I used it on some portion of the little skirt already, whatever this is. So we're just gonna pull some white out. This white pot is a little contaminated, so you may see some slight colors find their way in. I'll try to avoid these areas. And we're just gonna thin the white out. Although we do really wanna make sure that our paintbrush is clean, and so if you wipe it, you may see some orange. We want to make sure all of that is gone, because any of that is going to show up in the enamel job. So this brush is honestly beat to hell, but I mostly use it for mixing and just taking paint out. I'm going to pull some of this out. There we go. Okay, so this should be pretty clean now. So you just don't want too much cross-contamination if your original goal is white. Anything you do to alter white is going to change that color a little bit. Okay, this should be okay for now. We don't need too much, honestly. Oops. Okay. So I am just going to put little bits of white on the areas where I feel need it, and so might be kind of hard to point it out. Let's see if I can do it. I'm looking at my screen. So you can see right here, there's this little portion of white or orange that extends out past the border kind of this lines. There's some, if we turn it this way, there's some extra yellow here and here. Those are on the cherry blossoms. We want that gone. There's a little bit here, so we want that gone, among other various places. So we're working really small scale here. Like here is a Q-tip for comparison, but we want this to look clean, and so we're gonna be doing these little things just to make sure that everything looks good and clean. So don't need too much. It might be kind of hard to see at some points, I'm sorry. I'm just really digging in here. I have to get really close, and also there's shadows, and so it's a little hard for me to see. Okay. This was the main area here. Let's get this thinned a little more. So we want this a certain consistency so we don't let it leak and run into these areas that we airbrushed. But we're also not really gonna see this too much, so it's mainly like, don't worry if I have to get it a little bit thick. There we go. We'll have to wipe a little bit of that off, but Yeah, this ended up being my very favorite brush. I'm scared when it finally kicks the bucket because I tend to abuse everything. This is, yeah, my favorite. This is a Tamiya high precision brush. It's model 87172. I'm reading it. You can see it says Tamiya Modeling Brush Pro 2. Tamiya makes a variety of brush sizes, but this one is one of the smallest they offer. I think, if I remember correctly, my boss bought this for me when he was in Japan, because we used to talk about modeling and stuff, and he was like, what do you need to get me from Japan? I said, tiny brushes. That's a tiny brush, so hopefully, I wonder if you can buy this on Amazon. You probably can, but you know, I don't know. Yeah, send him back for more trips. My connection, right? Unfortunately, I no longer work there. Now I just ask him for job recommendations. Yeah, oh my gosh. Fun times. I need to catch up with him. He was a cool guy. Anyone who offers to buy you stuff hobby related in Japan is probably pretty cool. We're hoping and planning though. If all goes well, if Japan is good, I'm hoping to make a trip to Japan sometime in the next year or so. We'll see, but it will really depend on coronavirus and stuff, so we'll see. Not this year, it would have to be next year, but I don't know, we'll see. Alright. I'm just moving this piece around, trying to make sure I hit all the areas I want to hit before we start wiping stuff off. I know it doesn't look like much, but all of this is going to be, you know, it cleans up the whole area, makes it look a little bit more cohesive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really depends on the border situation. I'm like very, very tentatively hopeful. I'm not hoping for a lot, but there, you know, there is an entirely strong possibility that they might not even have their borders open by next year, so we have no idea. Okay, just gonna wipe that off. The tops don't need any white because we've already done that, so. Have any of you guys been to Japan? Pre-COVID, you know, obviously. Just curious. What was that eraser looking thing? Oh, you're talking about this? So this is a very handy product. This is made by Gaia Notes, but I'm sure there's other brands. Dang, I actually put it away in my closet. Let me pull it out real quick. I have the package for it, so we'll cover it real quick. I cleaned up this weekend and I knew it. Alright, so this is, whoops, my bad. Let me zoom out a little bit. This is Gaia Notes Finish Master Extra Fine R. It is basically a two-pronged plastic piece, and it comes with these little like sponge accessories that are used to wipe off things. And so I won't open the package, but you can see all the extra nubs down here. It's used for lots of things, used for, you know, figure and doll cleanup of eyes, used for decals. I don't even know what this says. Sumi something. Entry? I don't know. Yeah, so it has a lot of applications. You can see oh, maybe it's used for, I don't know what this portion is for. Is this for putty? Basically, you just kind of angle it and wipe off whatever you need to, and you can see it sucks up stuff and you can smooth out areas, and it's just a really handy tool. So I really recommend it. This is one of those things that I wasn't sure if I needed, and then I think I got this in a seal model order because I had seen some Japanese sculptors use it. And I pull this out more often than I think. Like, it really is so handy. Honestly, I find it a lot less abrasive than, pull out my other stuff, a lot less abrasive than like my toothpicks and my, you know, little cotton swabs, just because it is only a sponge. And so these, you have like one tiny point, but if you push too hard, it's kind of abrasive and you risk kind of digging into your paint job eventually, the more you wipe down. The sponge, I've never really had that problem. It's a very soft, malleable, you know, thing, and it doesn't really scratch anything. So I do recommend this. Let's see, I bought the small sponges from Rakuten, but my dumbass forgot to add to shipping. Oh, crap. Yeah, you can buy these little nubs separately too, which is, you know, great, because they do get dirty pretty quick. I try to use as much as I can out of it, because they do just kind of tend to soak up stuff, and they do take a lot of abuse. But you know, I try to use them sparingly, but you can also buy a bunch. Let's see, are those toothpicks these? Let me click it real quick. See, microblading. Yes, yeah, very similar. I don't know if this is the brand that I bought, but you know, honestly, this might be the brand that I bought too. Just because it came in like a pack of 1,000 and you use so many of them that, you know, I have found them handy, and they're basically like 1 or 2 use, and then you throw it away, but it's just something good to have in your stock. I do still use these, so I use both. I use everything. Yeah, no problem, Saneric. I don't know if Gaia Notes is like the proprietary maker of these, or if you can buy another brand, but I would look for something with a little angled sponge. The applicator itself doesn't really matter. Like, honestly, you could probably just stick one of these on a toothpick and then have something else. You could like makeshift your own even. All right, let's continue this. I might need to thin this just a little more. We are almost done laying down the white though, and then we're gonna come back and start cleaning up those oranges. And I think that's about all we'll have time for tonight, which is pretty good. That's honestly about how far I figured we would get tonight, so good stuff. This song kind of reminds me of Kirby. I don't know why. Let's see. No, it's just called Beach Flavored Sand, but it just reminds me of something Kirby. Okay. Just a little bit more up here that I think I'm gonna get, but we could also probably paint this red. Oops, there's some white here I need to wipe, so. Oops, and I had that orange, so that just took off all the orange. So we'll put a little bit more orange there too. Okay. Get this wiped. That's probably good for now. Let me put a little bit more orange down. Oh, my dog might bark, so just kind of FYI if you hear him. Also, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Missile. He's 8 years old. Had him since he was a puppy, so. This weekend we'll have to do something fun for him. Okay, covered that up, but I'm gonna need to wipe that down a little bit because now it's uneven. Get that. Oh, it still had some white on it. Ugh. Okay. There we go. Yep, happy birthday. Thank you for the birthday wishes for my dog. I had remembered all week, and then the day of I forgot, and so I was reminded it was his birthday, and I was like, oh my god, completely forgot. Let's see, what size brush is your tiny Tamiya? Is it the Pro 2? Yeah, so it's the Pro 2. It doesn't say extra fine on it, but it does have the item number, which is 87172. The item number is the specific thing here because Tamiya brushes each have their own model number, and so you want to very much make sure that it's the 87172. That's this model. Very fine brush. Might not be quite as necessary if you're building larger kits, but for someone like me, the majority of stuff I build is less than 10 centimeters. It's kind of a must-have for me. A lot of smaller brushes. I use a lot of round, fine, pointed brushes. Anything with like long bristles, I don't tend to use that much. Also, this matches more of my painting style, and so I'm not very good at getting like these beautiful long lines, like taking a really long bristled brush and just doing a beautiful line. You may notice when I'm painting, I kind of like rub a piece a lot and go at it almost like I'm sketching. That's probably because the only background I have is like drawing, and so I tend to paint my kits that way. So because of that, I like these small, shorter bristled brushes. So your experience might change depending on your background and you know, what you tend to do. But for me, this one works really well. Okay, I'm gonna leave this for now. Let's just wrap up with the starting to work on the hairbands. I could clean up this white, but I'll do that some other time. Okay. That's the ultra fine brush. If you can't find them in the US, then they seem to be easy to get in the United Kingdom. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll have to do a search. Out of curiosity, how much is one of those brushes over in the UK? Because I don't remember how much my boss paid for it or whatever it was. And just so everyone kind of has an idea of how much they might be getting into with something like this. 14 euros. Or pounds? I'm sorry, I'm embarrassing myself. That's a pretty good deal for a brush like this. That's a little pricey on the edge of a, you know, brush, but people pay a lot more for brushes. So Tamiya brand, from the brushes that I have used, they are very high quality. They last a long time. I can attest to them taking a lot of abuse because I'm not great with my brushes, and so they're, you know, they stand up to the test. Converts to about 18 US. That sounds about right. I think my boss paid around 1,500 yen, maybe 1,700. So, yeah, it seems like the price is pretty stable. You probably won't get a super good deal if it's like on sale or anything, but it's a really nice brush. Do try to like take care of it a little more though, so I try not to completely dip it in a lot of thinner. It's kind of hard when you have this really, really tiny point, but even then. So we're just going around the edge and cleaning up any extra enamel. Thankfully, this has sort of a guideline, and so I'm not really reinventing the wheel here. I'm just painting along the sculpted line and wiping off any mistakes. So you can see there's like some dots up there. We'll have to get that off. The sponge is also handy here because obviously this is such a tiny brush, it's not wiping too much off, and so after I get the fine lines cleaned up, I go in with the sponge. And with the pointy end, I just kind of wipe off anything that is left over. And with this tiny brush and the little sponge, I can clean up most of my mistakes these days. I don't use a lot of brushes. There is that, whatever that tiny dust or something is, it made a little bit of a texture there, but I think we're fine. I do go at this pretty slow because you don't want to take off too much enamel. If you get the right thickness of the layer down, you're pretty much good to go. But if you have to keep putting layers on, it starts to get kind of messy, and then it's almost better sometimes just to wipe everything and start over. Remember that you've already top coated your lacquer, and so you should be able to just wipe off your enamel layer. Okay, there's a little bit there, kind of uneven. Can't tell if that's the sculpt or me. I think that's me. Let me see if I can get a tiny bit more down without ruining that layer. That should be okay. We'll wipe that off in a bit. Okay. I have no idea if you guys can see this. It looks like it on my screen, so it's just a very slow process. Also, I've received comment that I hold my paintbrush kind of weird. I hold it the same way that I'm drawing, like when I use my pencil or whatever, so again, it's just improper handling. Okay, good. Yeah, as long as you guys can see it, that's the whole point of this, so. You can see why it's handy to have a little thinner cup right below, because then you can just dab your brush as needed and clean it out. We're getting there. Oops. Try to go in one direction. What I generally do is I give it a first pass and get, you know, the big areas wiped off, and then I go in and I try to clean up any tiny details. So what we're doing now is the first pass. There we go. Okay. Get some of this off with the little spongy. Trying not to touch the edge, but to get most of that excess stuff off. Already though, you can see it looks a lot cleaner. Still some mess, but compared to this other side, it looks a lot cleaner. All right, let's work on the diamond area. Okay. So in this case, we just want everything off the diamond. The sculpt got kind of weird though. When I was painting the diamond, there was like portions where it looked like it was meant to be diamond shaped, but then it kind of got round, and so I think some of this is just, there's only so much you can do with the sculpt. Okay. Let me clean this section up real quick. So that's that one that we just had reapplied that paint on. I'll take a look again at it in a bit. Okay. Gonna sponge off the main portion. Because it gets kind of discolored by the thinner in the enamel. Clean that up a bit. There we go. Small portion in here. I'm trying to get the right angle on. There we go. Okay. A lot of what could probably be solved is just tool limitations. So if you ever feel like you're not reaching your potential there, maybe you need a different tool. You know, maybe you need a smaller paintbrush, or maybe you need you know, some sanding that can help you, sanding equipment. So I'm all for like not spending money on stuff, but at the same time sometimes it's important to have the right tools for the job, and it will save you a lot of time and frustration. In my case here, I'm talking about this paintbrush. A very tiny bit of paint here I want to remove. Some sort of hair somewhere. There we go. That was close. Okay. I might have screwed me over. I might have hit that other side. That's okay. Get rid of that hair. And looks like this side's mostly good. Let's work just a little bit longer. Start this other side before we wrap up tonight. There's still a little bit of paint here I want to get off, but that might have to wait till Thursday or my own time. Yeah, I'll be. Fine details, y'all. This is the exact same process though that we do when we're painting eyes. It's just a matter of like wiping the eye into the shape that you want. So you'll lay down your color and get it in that rough pattern, and then kind of draw the eye on by erasing certain portions. And we will be doing that, so probably within the next 2 weeks, if even that. We're like rapidly approaching the point where we only work on the face. Face is always where I work on last, and so sometimes, you know, there's less to do than other things, just because once you get close to finishing the face, there's only a small portion you can work on at a time. But I like having that sense of it being the only thing left, so we get all of this out of the way first, and then all of my energy can be focused on painting the face. Okay, that side coming out pretty good. I'll wipe this very carefully. There we go. Okay, and continue our way this way. The layer is a little bit thicker, I think, because we put on that second layer. So I don't know if it's visible. Probably to some extent. There's like this thicker layer on this side. And so when you're wiping away, you can kind of start to see the division of the sculpt and then that line, and it kind of looks like a ridge. The thicker your enamel paint job is, the more you're gonna see that. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of like when you apply a really thick layer of acrylic paint and then you can kind of like see it and it would like peel up more. I don't know. Okay. That thicker layer seems to work out in our case though. And just to double check, yep, it matches this pretty well. So we're not painting this a weird color or something that doesn't match. The Whoopie Pie sculpt painted this a little bit darker, but for our purpose, it's gonna be lighter. Unless I take a look at it after this and decide I hate it and I want it darker. Yeah, I think it's good. I tend to like minimalistic color palettes anyway, so the more things like match up, the more I like it. Alright, let's try to rotate this. This little wire here is only for gripping purposes to help me hold this a little better. Because it's such a small piece and it doesn't have anything to clip it to, so. Oops, there is a little hair here. Let's see if I can just, okay, for this purpose, I usually take a, oh, come on. What's going on here? There's a tiny hair that got stuck here, but it's not, there we go. Trying to pull it out, there we go. Had to pull it out of my paint job. Tiny hairs are a big problem when it comes to this, because like that, if they get stuck in your paint job, they're very hard to remove from the enamel paint job, and chances are they take off some of your paint with it and they ruin that nice layer you have going. And so if you see a tiny hair pop up, you want to get rid of it as soon as possible when you're doing these hand painting with enamels. So, you know, keep your kit in a dust-free as possible area, and then kind of just be vigilant if you see it pop up, especially if you see it in your eye, like the eyes that you're painting. Sometimes when I'm laying like the very first coat of white down, and if I see these hairs pop up, I just scrap it all and I just start over. And so that way I can start out with as flat of a surface as possible. Plus, if there's a hair, yeah, exactly, that too. Your camera is there so it can make you hate your work. So it will pick out every small defect and flaw that's possible. And it loves to do it, so. Yeah, that I think has been one of the most challenging things for me. And just also one of the things that has motivated me more is as I've gotten better taking photos of my figure, you tend to notice this stuff and it pops up. And so because of that, I spend a lot of time trying to make sure my paint job is fine. And so when I take these photos that are generally like super high def, they're not in faded backgrounds or poor light source or anything. What you see is what I'm seeing, so it's very little touch up or anything else needed. Let's see, you think, ooh, this gradient's so smooth, cameras are, yep, yeah. To be fair though, in defense of like texture, if you're painting with certain types of paints, don't be upset if you get some texture, because certain things like you know, water-based acrylics do tend to have some texture to them, especially if you're hand painting like craft acrylics or anything like that. You'll get some texture. What we're dealing with here now is like the smoothest form of it, mostly lacquer and enamel. But yeah, certain paint brands will have texture no matter what. That's one thing that I really, I think I even wrote about it in my original guide that I wrote so long ago. Like, it happens. I have, you know, old kits that I painted with acrylics and they just have texture. You can't be stopped. Matte paints are the worst. Yeah, matte paints do tend to have a lot of texture, I found too. And obviously the nicer and more high quality paint you buy, the better your results might be, because you'll have higher pigment rather than like fillers. And so if you're buying $1 paint from craft store versus a nice bottle of Vallejo, your Vallejo is going to give you a better and smoother finish. So just keep that in mind if you're wanting to, you know, work with other brands of paint. They're not all created equal, so. And airbrushing, you know, you're going to tend to get a smoother surface if you're hand painting. But some people like that hand painted texture, and I actually do like it a lot. It's one of those things that I like, and I think that I've been kind of conditioned to dislike because we're also used to smooth anime figures and that sort of thing. But you know, there's no right or wrong here. If you like that on your kit, you know, then that's fine, you know. Not everything has to be like this sort of smooth anime baby bottom. Heck, I've seen somebody paint, not even paint is the stretch here. I've seen somebody build and completely shade a kit with pastels. There was no paint involved. It was all pastels, like chalk pastels. And honestly, that was one of the most unique kits I've seen. I still think about that kit in terms of like, how can I open my eyes to things that are alternative and not have to, you know, do certain methods. So that was really cool. Let's see. Who would put dollar store craft paint on a garage kit? Surprising. You know, it's a beginner thing. I've definitely used my share of $2-3 craft paint when I first started out. I wrote my whole beginner guide, you know, with that in mind, because not everybody has so much money to splurge on an airbrush setup right away. So there's ways to get around and use cheaper things and get nice results. Pastels are big in the ball joint doll community. Oh yeah, for sure. They're one of the main ways, I think, to like shade and work with faces and stuff. And I actually do want to do more of that too. I think I mentioned that before. So I watched a couple videos and I subscribed to a couple people, and I actually bought a couple of the pastels that they recommended. So who knows how that will go out. That's one of those things that won't be a video, but someday you'll probably see me post a finished kit and I'll say, I finally did it, y'all. I used pastels. I just have so little time these days to do things. Would love to see me do some face-ups. Maybe someday. That's a nice thought. I have actually, you know, been thinking about wanting to do something like that for a while. Just because out of curiosity. I don't even own dolls. But I feel like it would be fun to mess with a face. And some of those faces are pretty large. And so, be a good chance to use some techniques. And some of the glass eyes are really pretty, so. Alright, we're just about done here. I'm just cleaning up this small section. There's still a little bit of touch up that I want to do. And it looks like, I can't tell if this is gloss or not. Let me move this real quick. There's an area, yeah, there is a tiny area that I think I wiped off. And so let me see if I can get that thinned out. Although now I don't remember which one we used. I think it was this one. As Rocket, he is needing his cat scratcher thing. Oh, he just walked off. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna scratch, and goodbye. Okay, very slowly. Hi, Rocket. Don't know if you guys can hear him. That should be good. Still kind of wet. There's a tiny area here I wiped off. So again, even if you lay down top coat, sometimes it just comes up, so there we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. And give this just one quick look. A couple of tiny rough spots, probably from fuzz or whatever, but this is such a minor portion of this that I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much. If it was on the eyes, that'd be a different concern. So there's a tiny bit more cleanup I'm gonna do on this, mainly to get this diamond looking nice and like the right way. Right now it still looks kind of not diamondy. So I'll put this back for now. But I think that pretty much wraps up our stream tonight. So next time, what are we gonna do next time? So next stream is on Thursday. We're gonna continue cleaning up these hair bands. I don't know if there's anything else to do on the front part of the skirt or whatever. But we also have a couple other things we're gonna do. We're gonna work on lemons or oranges. I keep saying lemons. And just some other minor detail pieces. We might also start on parts of the face, like the eyebrows or whatever, because they are sculpted. Here's her face. So you can see she has mostly a sculpted face. Doesn't have very much shading because I'm planning to do some pastels for that. So we'll be doing lots. Fun times on Thursday. Thanks, guys. I hope you have a good one. And yeah, see you guys later. Have a good mid-hump day and